I quit my job, and here is the reason why. So in 2014, I started my career studying aircraft maintenance engineering. So I went to a school called Centennial College, and that is where I got the education to study aircraft maintenance engineering, which was a 2-year program. I graduated 2016, and that is when I started looking for a job. In 2016, the job market for aircraft maintenance engineering was terrible. It was really tough. There was not a lot of options like how it is right now. It was something that I went through. It was a challenge of my life personally. And for you guys who don't know, I came to this country as a international student, whereby you know how international student is, right? The tuition there was really terribly high. It's even more expensive now. That time I was paying like $16,000. So imagine you spending that much time, that much money on a tuition, and graduating after school, and there was no job available, right? That was like a really down, depressing side time of my life. I remember calling my mom, my dad at one point of looking for a job, and then I remember crying to them, telling them my situation, right? And they told me to just keep pushing. But I've always been that type of person that never give up in life. I always try to do my best to find solutions to my problems. Luckily, I decided to do something which kind of helped me out, right? I reached out to one of my professor, and that was when he told me to send in my resume, which I did. I sent him my resume. He did an evaluation to my resume, and he told me like some stuff that are missing, some qualifications on my resume, like in terms of like my driver license, my radio license. I should try and display my strength as much as possible and as fast as possible, which I did. And he also advised me to, instead of applying online, I should try going in person and dropping my resume to companies in person. Me doing that change of strategy in terms of job finding was actually how I got my first job ever in aviation, and that was my first job ever. The company I worked for was for Bombardier Aerospace in 2016. Bombardier was a good experience, especially for somebody that graduated from school with no experience. Like it was a good experience for me. And not to talk about the pay. The pay then was like, I remember my friends that graduated from school who got an apprentice job in 2016. A lot of them were getting paid like $19 an hour, $16 an hour, $15 an hour, and here is me graduating from school getting $28 an hour. Yes, in 2016, my first job ever in aviation, I was getting $28 an hour. But the problem working for Bombardier Aerospace is because it's more of a manufacturing company, you cannot get your license there, right? And the reason why is the aircraft you're working on, it's not a registered aircraft. So they had two sections. They had the assembly section, and they also had the manufacturing. They had the pre-flight section, and they also had the manufacturing section. Back time, I was working more in the mixture of pre-flight and also manufacturing, right? But sometimes, most of the time I work on manufacturing, the aircraft was not registered. And if I work on pre-flight, the aircraft is registered, but like it's not like really logbook signature type of task I was doing, right? So I could not get my license there, but the reason why I stayed there was because I was blindfolded with the money. Yes, I remember clearly. I started over 28. After like 6 months, they increased my salary to like $32 an hour. I was like 20 years old when I graduated, 21. Making that type of money at that early stage was like, yes, it might not sound like a lot of money to some people, but think of 2016, how cheap things were back then, and making that type of money. I know people that graduate with degrees in 2016 that were not making that type of money, So, I started working for that company, good company, man. I had a good time there. I had a lot of experience, but the problem is, and that was something I realized after, leaving the company, was my license was really important. I remember I had a friend of mine who had more experience than me that time, was an older guy, and he was telling me like, hey Peter, you should consider getting your license. Yes, you're making good money in Bombardier, but this is something that will tie you down, that will not make you, like, if something happens today, you don't have any type of license or qualification to fall back on. I didn't listen to him. And I remember clearly a lot of my friends were making that sacrifice, going to like different provinces to get experience, just to get their license, but here was I just making 20, 32 dollars an hour, thinking I was balling, until COVID hit. And that was like that's why I tell people COVID was like a curse and a blessing, right? And that was like a high opener for me, because I remember when I got laid off. Yes, I got laid off in 2019 after working there for like 3 years. And I was like, oh, like literally I had no qualifications. A lot of people that I was working with in Bombardier, I remember some of them were buying houses, buying new cars. They had to sell all those stuff because you cannot make that type of money outside anywhere else without any type of qualification. And I was kind of in that position whereby, making from 30, before I got laid off, I was like making like 35 to almost close to 40, right? And there was no type of qualification. I had to start from this bottom again. I'm like, you know what? I have to use this opportunity to get my license, So luckily, during that period of time, a friend of mine recommended me to an agency whereby I did a contracting opportunity. I started contracting for like 6 months, and after contracting for like 6 to 7 months, I got a call back from Bombardier Aerospace. They started calling people back to start working because the market was picking up a little bit slowly, and they needed more people. So I got called back, and I went back. I accepted. But man, after like a week, I sat down with myself and I told myself, like, man, I have to get my license. I literally have to get my license. Like, if I don't get my license, I'm gonna have to like suffer in the future, because yes, the money is good right now, but the company working in that type of environment whereby it's not predictable. You're more of a customer base. You're working based on customer demand, right? If people are not buying private jets, there's no work for you, and people are not buying private jets every day. You know what I'm saying? Right? So that was like, I was like, you know what? I have to make that sacrifice. Even though I was making a lot of money then, I mean, not crazy money, but like for my age back then, that was like a lot of money, right? So I quit. And that was when I submitted my resigning letter, and I quit my job, and I started off my apprenticeship from making like close to $38 an hour to start making $19 an hour. But that was like a good sacrifice I had to make, and this is something that really paid off, and that is why I am here today, to inspire you guys and educate you guys and direct you guys to the right direction. Because if I didn't make that sacrifice that I made that time, I would probably still be working there right now making crazy money. But God forbid, 10 years from now, if something happens, an economy crashes, I have nothing to fall back on. I literally have nothing to fall back on. I have to start over again. But now I have my course, my type ratings, I have my license. God forbid, if something happens today, I can easily try to find something else in a short period of time, because I have an actual qualification. I have a license, and this is something I preach to apprentices that are in school right now. We're about to graduate, or who already graduated. Yes, the market is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to get our first job, especially if you don't have any type of experience, but I don't want you to just go for any job that will tie you down, because I'm telling you, man, sometimes you get some opportunity that was so attractive, right, and you forget about what actually matters, because now I actually started working with apprentices in terms of job application. I help them out with their resume, with interview preparation, and some of them come to me, we start doing the whole process, and they get some opportunity in like an engine shop manufacturing company, yes, that is good. The money is gonna be good, right? But the problem with we human beings, we get too comfortable, and that is my biggest problem, right? I don't want you to be in a place whereby I would rather you suffer, right? Suffer for like 3 months without getting a job, and they say the 4th month you actually get an apprentice job, than going for something that I know you are gonna get comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? You can say, yes, I'm not gonna get comfortable, I'm not gonna, I'm telling you the reality, man. We are human beings. We always get too comfortable with something, and I've seen this happen to me 3 years of my life. My license process could have been a little bit earlier, but I got too comfortable. I was just going for the money instead of making that sacrifice to get my license, right? Without COVID happening and me realizing the importance of my license, I would probably still be there right now, and like I said, if something happens 10-20 years down the road, I have no qualification to fall back on. You know what I mean? Like, anyone can literally work in a manufacturing company. All you need is to go to school for like 6 months. There's like a quick fast track 6 month course, and you can start working there. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be making great money, really good money. The job is not that toxic, like it's pretty easy job, but if you get laid up, you get fired, whatever, for some weird reason, you have nothing to fall back on. I had a lot of friends that time, they were buying cars, buying houses, and when we all got laid off, they had to sell their cars, they had to sell their license, their houses, because they didn't have any type of qualification to fall back on. And for you guys that are in school right now, please choosing the right first job really matters, man. Like I said, it's not gonna be, even with me helping you out, if I help you out with job application, it's not something you're not gonna get it. It's not something like, I cannot guarantee you're gonna get a job in like a week, in 1 day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have a company to hire you, but I can help you, direct you to the right places, on how way to apply, where to send your resume, and with more pressure. And if you're not lazy, like, trust me, something's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So my most important thing is choosing the right first job, because that first job, man, can be this job that will tie you down, and it's not because you don't value your license, or it's not because the company is so good, but sometimes we are human beings, we get too comfortable, man. Like I have friends that they're still working there and they're still working in Bombardier Aerospace, making crazy money, but for me right now, I might not be making as much they are making because they are contractors there, but God forbid if something happens tomorrow, right? Guess who has more qualification, who has more value to provide to other companies? Me. I have my license. I have 2 type courses that I can use anywhere across the world, not only in Canada. I can go to America, I can go to Europe to contract, I can go to Saudi Arabia, I can go to different provinces, different continents to work. But damn, yes, you work in there, but what qualification do you have? You don't have no qualification. So please, when you guys graduate, choosing the right job, the first job, is really, really important. And don't look at the money. The money is not gonna be good, but it's a sacrifice you gotta make. We all had to make that sacrifice. All right. This is just my story of how I quit my job, my first job ever in aviation. I don't think I ever said it on YouTube here, but it's just something I want to say to you guys, because like I said, I started helping apprentices out with resume building, with interview preparation. And if you're that type of person, if you're an apprentice right now who just graduated from school and you need someone to help you out build your resume, to prepare you for interview, to help you out with job application, right? I can direct you, with references. I can just give you some emails to send your resume to, how to apply, where to apply to. I can direct you. Like, this is not something that will happen in 1-2 weeks. It might take a month, but guarantee you with the steps, I will direct you something is going to happen. You're definitely going to get a job down the line. But if you're not apprentice that need that type of help, this is a service I offer. This is something I help apprentices with. Click the link in the description and book a consultation, and let me see how I can help you out. All right, for you guys that are new to my channel, my name is Peter. I am a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer, and I help aircraft maintenance engineer with job application. I also help aircraft maintenance engineers with apprentices with their cars examination. So if you're that type of person that need that help, like I said, click the link in the description. And if you are new to my channel, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Love you guys.